Media made for the entertainment of the masses, bringing us all together and making us feel joyful while spending quality time enjoying our loved ones and our friends, all the while showing us another world through this window of cinema that no one ever thought possible. But what about the dark side of media? What if we're not just being given entertainment, but instead entertainment is being pushed on us in a fun and curious way, kind of like a drug dealer does when he hands out that first taste? The early to mid-1900s didn't have much in the way of media addiction, as technology just wasn't there yet. But by the 1940s, we started to see films with real-world news attached to them, and this began to pull more of a draw. But by the 1950s, we also saw ownership of televisions rise swiftly from 9% in the early part of the decade to about 90% by 1960. And by then, Hollywood and the TV channels were pumping out blockbuster films at a dizzying rate, such as movies like Cool Hand Luke, Bonnie and Clyde, and TV shows such as Star Trek and 60 Minutes. We also saw large public television channels such as CPB and PBS form, with their focus being more on children's TV, as they didn't think that there was as much in the way of suitable television for children at that time. News channels of the time also took advantage of the world events, such as Vietnam War and the Apollo moon landing, which really seated television at the top of the media food chain at the time. By the 70s, also known as the social issues decade, media companies were creating television shows that helped breed escapism for the American audience, as people wanted to not think about their daily struggles. Then, the 1980s gave way to probably the most profound TV media phenomenon that has affected a younger generation: the creation of MTV, music television. And as their prophetic first song, Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles, was premiered, it celebrated the joining of two major media forms. The 90s, the last decade of the 20th century, which is also the beginning of the internet, that brought in a whole new category of media, which has created just as many problems as it has solutions. From its ability to give you a lexicon of information outlets to its ability to connect you with other people anywhere in the world. And now, with this third leg of the tripod now having been established, giving us music, television, and internet all at the push of a button, we now can't seem to be able to control the rate at which we consume this massive information. From 2000 to present, we have seen nothing but an exponential growth in technology and its ability to push the media bubble to the furthest reaches of the world. But at what cost? We are just now seeing the effects of constant overstimulation. Let's listen to Simon Sinek on his thoughts of where our generation is at and going.
Let's add in technology. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good, right? So, we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi, 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 because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower. Did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down.
And yet, today, we use the television as a form of babysitting, allowing our children to occupy themselves with little to no oversight of what they're looking at or playing with. And this has led to what behavioral scientists call the overstimulation hypothesis, which states that prolonged overstimulation of the mind in early children under 3 years of age can detrimentally affect the attention span of the child later in life. So even though we are told that the stimulation exercises for the brain muscle are great for our children, it also causes the mind to now crave that stimulation constantly, and when you can't have it, we become bored, which then causes us as adults to lose focus and sometimes to even forget to enjoy our surroundings. Some people even think nostalgically of our past and how easy life was back then. But the realities are that technology is here to stay, along with its pros and cons. So we have to find a way to exercise control in our everyday use so that we can hopefully avoid becoming another addicted soul cruising social media, pretending that we're not part of the problem. Yet we are.